Hi, hello, and welcome back to our 55th edition of 805 Sports Talk. I'm Elliott Stern, along with Lorenzo and Kenny Kress. Joe Bailey couldn't be with us today, but he is going to kick off the action for us. We're going to get right into it, talking about St. Joseph High School tennis. They improved to 13-4 overall and 10-3 in the Pac-8 League this week with a Tuesday 15-3 win over Rigetti. And that is significant because it should get them into the playoffs. Now, they've been getting better over the last few years. They just missed out on the postseason last year, but it looks like they're going to make it this year. They've risen dramatically in the powerful Pac-8 League, and with players like Avnish Bhatt, Pat Regali, Christian Tullis, and others, they are on the verge of scoring a playoff spot this year. And Joe Bailey was out after the match to talk to the players about it.
Well, during the summertime, we had a lot of the, players here. A lot of the doubles players were working hard and, putting their time in, and it really kind of played out there during the season. Little surprised, but not shocked. The hard work is paying off, and it's good for the boys to see it and to get rewarded with it. So, very proud of them.
What do you think it's been on the court with you guys? Some strengths in singles, doubles, some balance there, some certain guys who have really stepped up. What's kind of led to that success this year?
It's been a balance of singles and doubles. Starting off with our team captain, our senior Avnish Bhatt, been working hard throughout the whole summer. I think with his leadership, the other boys, a lot of the juniors, they kind of see that and they kind of follow along with that. And the doubles, like my number 2 doubles, Pat and Thomas are good friends, so they have good, good chemistry together. And just the rest of the boys are all, juniors, so they've, known each other since they were in grade school. So I think that's a big factor on why we're doing well in doubles.
From your perspective, just talk about how it feels to get some success. We've been working with you over the years. You've been grinding, it seems like, working with this program for, I don't know how many years it's been now, but to put that work in and to see some success this year. And you guys, it's been a gradual thing. You guys were solid last year, but the league was real tough. How does it feel to see see that work kind of pay off?
I think the kids are buying in, and it just feels good to see them buying into it. And when they see the results, then I think they work that much harder because they see the results. So just really proud of them. I mean, I just lost for words, to tell you the truth. I'm just really proud of my team.
So things are really looking good for the St. Joe tennis team. Everybody here is rooting them and the other local teams on, of course, when it comes to the playoffs. There's so much more going on, and although basketball is a winter sport, it did make some headlines this week when Lompoc named a new basketball coach, boys basketball coach, with a very familiar name, a very familiar face to people in the Lompoc Valley. Lorenzo, you talked to the new coach and tell us all about it.
Well, we already have one Terrones, Claudia. Now we have the husband, Paul Terrones, getting the task of taking over the boys basketball program at Lompoc. Now, here's the crazy thing about the Paul Terrones hire. He has very little history of playing basketball at Lompoc High, but he's been around some very prominent names, some very intellectual basketball names. Obviously, one of them being his wife, Claudia, but he also told me that he spent a lot of time with the legendary Brian Ayer. Also got a chance to spend some time with Elliott Davis during the time he was at Lompoc. So he tells me that he's absorbed a lot of knowledge and a lot of basically basketball fundamental aspects from those three. So. And I think another thing, too, that resonates about this hire, at least in my mind, is that Terrones brought up this fact. A lot of basketball players on the Braves are football players. And so Terrones already has that established relationship with those kids. So to me, the transition and getting to know the players, it won't be that big of a problem for Paul Terrones as he eases into his new role.
Now, the Terrones name is well known throughout the Lompoc Valley. There are a lot of them. And many are very successful athletes. And Paul's wife, Claudia, was a successful athlete, but is now a very successful girls basketball coach who has her own unique style of coaching and getting the kids to play. Do you think Paul will adapt some of that to the boys team?
You know, Paul, I did ask Paul that question, and to me, he feels like that he's not in a position where he wants to automatically say that he's going to run that style of system. But I'm kind of cynical, and I have this utmost belief that he's going to bring in what Claudia runs and runs so well. And he told me that he wants to keep the tempo, he wants to keep the pressure. Well, those are two main staples of a Claudia Terrones-led basketball team right there. So it tells me that he's going to try to adapt this whole run and gun system that Claudia has installed. So I wouldn't be surprised if Paul does something similar.
Now, the baseball team at Cabrillo High School, I want to talk about them for a minute. They're a bunch of good kids. I saw John Osborne Monday at the round table, Jonathan Osborne, John being his dad, the retired Hancock College and St. Joseph High School baseball coach and athletic director. But Jonathan was talking about a very special fundraiser that the Cabrillo kids were going to be holding, and it looked like it was a huge success. So tell us what happened with that.
So Cabrillo adopted a rare color, the orange color, and it was all for leukemia awareness for a young man named Noah Scott, who is a Lompoc resident, currently battling ALL, a form of leukemia. And he was in very high spirits. He was really excited about being inside that dugout, and he also told me that the Cabrillo baseball players and coaches hung out at his house the day before the game. So, it was a very successful event. Cabrillo ended up winning the game 6-1, and the jerseys are actually going to be sold either through a fundraiser, or there's also talk that they might be auctioned off just to help send the proceeds over to the Scott family. But I got a chance to talk to Mr. Scott himself, and he seemed very upbeat, very positive despite what's going on. And it's one of those things where you gain a perspective of, you go through so many things in life, but here's a young man, not even 16 years old. He's battling something that is threatening his life, but he clearly blocks it all out because he sees a baseball and automatically that's where his happiness is. And I'll also add, one of his other ardent supporters is a familiar name in this area, Mr. Danny Duffy, who actually sent him an autographed World Baseball Classic hat with also Buster Posey's signature on there as well.
There's a young kid on Cabrillo High School's baseball team named Izzy Hernandez.
Yes.
Now, we followed him since Little League. I've watched him pitch, I've watched him hit, and when he was 11 years old, he was one of the most impressive young baseball players out there. But he's impressive in other ways too, because he was a prime mover of this.
Mm-hmm. It was actually his senior project, and it's crazy because I remember going through that as a Cabrillo student. You do a senior project, and that's one of your golden tickets to ensure that you're going to graduate. Well, you have those students who will do something like coach a youth baseball team or do some church volunteer work or work on a car part. Izzy Hernandez's senior project was this event. He wanted to put on a leukemia awareness game in honor of Noah Scott, and cancer, from what Izzy told me, it does hit home for him. He lost a close friend of his to leukemia, so you don't hear too many athletes doing something like this. So you got to tip your hat to Izzy Hernandez for not only showing that he's not just this top pitcher or top hitter option for Cabrillo, but he has a heart of gold as well.
Well, congratulations to him and to Noah Scott for the support he's getting, and everybody wishes him well. Everybody's thoughts and prayers will be with him, and hopefully he can beat this disease. Everybody has known people that have been affected by cancer. There's nobody I know that hasn't been. So more power to them at Cabrillo High School to raise money and help this young man, and all thoughts and prayers for Noah Scott and his family to hope he can beat this. Now, there's other things that are going on. We're getting down toward the end of the season, the regular season for a lot of things. One of them is track and field. Now, we're going to have the league preliminaries and finals coming up in the next couple of weeks. And I know, Kenny, you're huge into track and field, and actually, when we get to this point, you and I split it up as a rule, and you do the Los Padres League, and I cover the Pac-8, because I tell you, it is so much fun to watch those kids. But before they get there, they had a huge meet this weekend, and you were at that one, so tell me about it.
Okay, before I talk track, I would like to also add a tip of the hat to Noah just for his courage to basically go through. Izzy, for putting on the game, he does have a heart of gold for doing that. That is a lot of work, and I'm sure his teachers said, well, Izzy, I'm sure they did not say, well, Izzy, you're doing this senior project, so we'll just let you slide and all your other course. He's carrying a full course load in addition to putting on that game. So a lot of work and apparently big success. So a tip of the hat again to Izzy for that. In the county track meet, Lompoc boys supplied most of the highlights. Lorenzo saw a lot of Shamar Savage on the football field. He seems like a very nice young man, but boy, he sure is physically imposing. I got my first good look at just how physical Shamar is. Boy, if he can stay healthy with that kind of combination size and speed, he should have a big football year. But anyway, Shamar ran a very solid 11.16 100 meters to win the Open 100 the county meet. He was the anchor man for Lompoc's winning 4x1 relay team, which won in an upset. They were only seated third. They were put in lane 4, which is generally the third seated lane. But the guy who I thought really stole the show, though, was Anthony Manahan. He won a very tough double. Went under 50 seconds for the first time in the 400. He won that race in 49.37. That's a very solid time. He won the 222.54. That's another solid time. On the girls' side, Siobhan Garrett, as we're all familiar with her from basketball, she is a county champion. She won the girls' discus event. Haley Batty continues to make big headlines in the jumps. She broke the meet record in the long jump with an 18.4.5. She also won the high jump at 5.4. There were other winners on the girls' side. Sarah Perkins of St. Inez won the shot put. Pretty solid. She was only, I believe, a half inch off of her personal best. She won at 39.9. And Kimberly Deming, Russ says she has a bigger vault in her for now. She settled for a county championship at 10.6. So a lot of the highlights of the county meet were from on the North County side anyway, were from the Lompoc Valley. The San Maria Valley did have one champion, Joseph Dominguez Jr. I'm sure that's a very familiar athletic name to all of us. He won the boys 800, a very solid 158.67. And turning to softball, Hancock softball, where do the Bulldogs stand? Well, top of the WC North pack, really. They tied Ventura for the conference championship. I don't know if they will have a higher seed than Ventura because they took the season series, so both teams are already.
They're saying that they beat them Ventura 2-1 on the season, so
right.
They will.
That's what I thought.
Even though they tied for the league championship, that's what their third in 4 years too. They'll get the #1 seed out of the conference for the playoffs.
I saw them Thursday. The resumption of a suspended game against Cuesta and a full regulation game. They just didn't have it when they needed it, and Cuesta took both ends. Hancock did a really good job to come back from that disappointment. They knew they had, in all likelihood, if they did not sweep Moore Park, they would not get a share of the conference title, and they went out and swept Moore Park. They did what they have to do.
Didn't they score 51 runs?
That was against Los Angeles Pierce.
That's right, 26-0 and 25-0.
But against Moore Park, they saw.
Well, there were closer games, right, against Moore Park.
Right.
Yeah.
They won.
Tuesday.
They saw a 3-0 lead disappear in the first game, and then Miranda Morales gave them the win with the single, the bottom of the 7th, and then the second game they won very impressively 6-2. So hats off to them. They really did a good job when they needed to most, at the most crucial time.
Russ French told me he thinks Kimberly Deming can do 12 feet on the pole vault.
I believe it.
He said she's almost there, so she's having a spectacular year, as are so many of the young men and women here. And as the season winds down, there was the Northern Santa Barbara County Athletic Roundtable took a week off for spring break, but came back Monday. And because of that, they honored 4 athletes of the week, 2 of them from the week that they took off and 2 from this past week. And this week they had Drea Kwong, Drea Kwong from Hancock College Swimming, and Anthony Manahan from the Lompoc Braves track team. And then they had Haley Batty from the Cabrillo High track team, and Ryan Welker from San Ynez baseball. He wasn't able to make it to the luncheon, so you can see 3 of the 4 of them there. They were all honored as the most recent athletes of the week. You talked about Anthony Manahan. He regrets, he says, that he hasn't come out for track before this. Zion Harris is his best friend, and he's a star on the track team. And he had gone and watched his buddy and his other Lompoc High School friends play on, or compete on the track on the infield with the jumping and throwing events, and around the track, of course, with the running events. And he always enjoyed it. And he said Zion talked him into coming out, and he came out this year, and now he says he regrets. He's having so much fun. He regrets not doing it all 4 years. But he tells me, Anthony Manahan told me that when you talk about 400, that's sort of in between a sprint, the 100 and 200, or the distance is the 800 and the mile. So I asked, does he look at it like a sprint or a distance race where he paces himself? He says nope. He goes out and runs it like a 100 or a 200.
Yeah, you have to. It's close to a full sprint for a full lap.
So and he's loving it, and now he's regretting not doing it before. But he's kind of hoping he could keep on doing it at the college level, maybe for Hancock next year. And of course, Louis Quintana was there, as were other track coaches from Hancock. And they're all encouraging every one of them to come on over to Hancock. And we talked about Hancock's softball team, and they're having a great year. The baseball team's doing all right, but Hancock's track has some really outstanding performers, and Hancock swimming has had some really outstanding performers. And they're only a 4-year-old program, and they set records every year, and this is the best they've ever done. And Drea Kwong is one of the reasons for that. She's won 100 butterfly, the 200 backstroke, the 200 butterfly at the league championships, and now they're preparing to go to the state. And Haley Batty, you mentioned her. She's just a star. She won the women's long jump at 18.5 at the Mount Sac relays, and did a 5.2 high jump and won her division in high jump at the Mount Sac relays too. So it wasn't just a one-time thing at the county championships for these kids to have such a outstanding weekend at the county. But back to Hancock, their swimming and their track teams are doing well too. So it's nice to see, and of course they're recruiting as many of these kids locally as they can. So congratulations to all of them. Now there's only 2 more roundtable luncheons next Monday and the week after that, and then they'll be off for a few days, and on May 17th they will have their annual Hall of Fame inductions and scholarship dinner at the Elks Lodge. You'll be there. I've actually been asked to stay for more than just come by usually and meet everybody and take a few pictures. So I'll stay a little longer this year, but you'll be there covering that, and are making preparations to get all the scholarship winners and the Hall of Fame inductees. So that'll be a lot of fun. That's always a highlight of the year. Remember, the rodeo is coming up. The flag girls are out there practicing all the time. The Beaterino contest entrance is closed. The mutton busting entrances are now filled out. The Elks team roping wraps up its registration this week, so there's a lot of activity going around for the rodeo. And each night of the rodeo, they have an honored guest, and I don't know what they do to decide who the honored guest is, but on this rodeo Saturday night performance, they've asked me to be the honored guest. So I will be part of the rodeo instead of just covering it. That might mean Kenny might have to sub for me in covering it that night. He's the only other guy besides me who's ever really covered the rodeo. So that might be part of your responsibilities, at least for one more night. But then the banquet is coming up before that on May 17th. So that'll be a fun night. And I missed a couple weeks. I was on vacation, and then I was ill. So now I am back, but Joe couldn't make it today. He has another commitment that kept him out of here. But I do want to say that when I was, before I got sick, I was able to go to the NASCAR races in Fort Worth, Texas. And then I came back to my daughter's house in Oklahoma City and got to go to an Oklahoma City Dodgers game, AAA Dodgers, where they beat the Iowa City Cubs, and that was a lot of fun. That they have a beautiful ballpark there in Oklahoma City, and I have my souvenir Oklahoma City Dodgers pen, which was a lot of fun. And it was a great game, and we saw the Dodgers win, so that was fun to do. And if they're there next year when we go, then we'll go to it again. But they do have a beautiful ballpark right downtown, right next to where the Oklahoma City Thunder play.
Yeah, I'm sure Russell Westbrook will probably hit up a Dodger game since.
Yeah, he's got the rest of the summer off, so maybe instead of going fishing, he'll go over across the street.
Summer than he would have liked, once again.
Yep. So, and the NBA playoffs are underway, as are the NHL playoffs, and the NFL draft is coming up, and we have a special draft site. You can go to our website, and we have an entire, it's live right now, a page. If you go to santamariatimes.com/sports, then you'll be able to go to the NFL page, and it's got draft previews. It's going to have the round-by-round draft coverage right through the end of the draft, stories about all the players, player profiles, team-by-team coverage. If you go there right now, you'll see it's live, and it is really an impressive site that our company and our Lee Enterprises people have been able to put together. So it's there. It's as good as anything you're going to find anywhere, and better than most. So with that, we'll say goodbye to you for this week. Thank you for being with us. As always, it's been a pleasure, and join us again next week for 805 Sports Talk.